Women love to talk about love and marriage, but not about weight. The truth is, weight does affect relationships. Weight does affect attraction, what begins the relationship. Weight does affect connection, what sustains the relationship. And weight does affect options, who's available to you for a relationship. Most women just don't want to admit how much weight really matters, or they really don't know. And we're going to talk about why that is. By the end of this video, you'll have a snapshot of what's going on with weight in America, why Black women specifically have a hard time with this information, and what women who are willing can do about it. Y'all, this is going to be a two-part episode. I'm going to do the first part on my own because it's a lot of research and numbers. And then when I get to part two, the social and cultural commentary on this topic, I'm going to bring Instagram Live in. I'm Taylor Chandler, a licensed marriage and family therapist, personal development coach, and former fitness trainer, health coach, and fitness nutrition specialist. I still hold all of my certifications. I care about your health all around. First and foremost, for you, two huge reasons right here. Number one, your health affects your quality of life, which includes how mobile and functional you are and what you're able to enjoy. And number two, your health affects your life expectancy, how long you will live. But today we're going to focus on how it's affecting your romantic relationships or lack thereof. Here, we know it matters how our partner or potential partner sees us. For men, it matters how women are experiencing you. For women, it matters how men are experiencing you. If you don't want to accommodate that reality, then I am just not the person for you, okay? If you want to hear me talk about out of order men, since today we're going to talk about women, if you want to hear me talk about out of order men, go back to my episode from last year called The Inferior Man. I'll link it in the episode description. We'll talk more about men later, but right now we're going to focus on women. Specifically today, we're talking about women and the weight problems that keep them single or in relationships where their partner or spouse is dissatisfied or unhappy with them because of their weight. I just had a consult call with a man who has a deadline in mind. I'm talking about divorce, a deadline in mind for how long he's willing to keep putting up with his overweight wife. She wasn't that way when they started. She got that way because of bad habits that have become a bad lifestyle. Let's start here. Since I'm asking women to focus on and change something, I want to give a parallel example to help you understand the fairness in what I'm about to present. Women, you want men to be emotionally available. Women are now looking for more than providers for survival. They want a more holistic partnership in general. Women want a more holistic partnership, which includes emotional connection and intimacy. Some men are disinterested in that. Others are meeting the moment and understanding their emotional worlds better and your emotional world better, women, so they can fill this need and be more wholly healthy themselves. Women, if men got overly attached to work or function and need to be more interested in relational life or the emotional life between the two of you, if they need to tap into what's going on at home so that y'all are more connected and satisfied together. If men got overly attached to or overly involved in work and function, well, women got too big and need to be invested in fitness, tapping into that part of relational life. This isn't normally emphasized with women because it's not soft relationship talk, but it's still a huge ideal of a relationship for most men. So we have to put this on the table. Here's the short point of what I'm saying. Women got too big, and men in general do not want to be in relationships with really big women. We're going to talk medical research, the numbers first, then we'll get into the social cultural component, how weight is impacting relationships and marriage, and how to fix it for those who are willing. The first part is going to be more boring for some of you. It's numbers and research, but it's important we have a foundation, especially for something so sensitive. The second part is more human and fun. Without further ado, let's start with part one, the numbers. We'll stay focused on adults and adults in America. Obesity is recognized by leading health organizations around the world as a chronic and progressive disease that stems from a combination of genetic, behavioral, and environmental factors. Organizations like the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery organization openly say this is highly treatable. I'm linking everything in the description of this episode so you can see that for yourself. Obesity is linked to life-threatening diseases, including type 2 diabetes, heart disease, sleep apnea, and certain types of cancer. Leading health organizations use BMI to measure obesity, although there are known concerns like BMI does not measure body fat directly and does not provide information on body fat distribution, which matters because, for example, visceral fat, and we'll be talking a lot about that later, visceral fat around your abdomen in your organs is more problematic than fat in your thigh, for example. More on this later. Still, BMI is simple and inexpensive screening for conditions that increase the risk of certain chronic diseases. Understand, no matter how much you want to argue about BMI, the research still shows chronic diseases and shortened life expectancy being linked to people with high BMI. The research I'm going to show you is using BMI to measure obesity because BRI, which we'll talk about later, is not widely used right now. I'm going to talk about BRI after the research we do have. Let's get this out of the way. Please stop blindly making the argument that Black people have higher bone density or higher muscle mass than other people. It's not that it's not true. It's not that there's not validity in that, but chances are you don't actually know your bone density numbers or what percentage of your body weight is muscle. I would argue that most people making the argument that BMI doesn't work for Black people because of our high muscle mass and higher bone density don't actually know their numbers. I'm confident saying over 50%, the majority, I'm confidently saying that 51% plus of people making that argument don't actually know their bone density numbers or what percentage of body weight is muscle. Remember, I used to be in that fitness world. Most people don't know, although you can get those measurements. Most people don't get the numbers and just make blind arguments. Be honest with yourself. But if you want to argue that maybe you have a high BMI and you're still not big, okay, if you want to argue that maybe you do have a high BMI, but you are not actually too big, overweight or obese, here are a couple other tests to see if maybe you are too big. Okay. You know you're too big if you can't see your toes. You know you're too big if you have a hard time bending down to tie your shoe. If you struggle to sit down on low surfaces because you're not able to get up without causing a scene. You avoid stairs because you might become out of breath. You would find any reason not to run a mile because you're pretty sure you can't actually do it. Those are signs that you are too big or you are at least unhealthy. Now let's look at BMI. And again, we'll talk about a new measurement after that that seems to be more accurate, okay, but has not been used in research widely yet. I'll show you a chart here. BMI is a weight to height ratio. It stands for body mass index. Is your weight normal, under, or above what it should be based on how tall you are? This is a simple, inexpensive measure with limitations because it is so simple. Still, it gives us a general snapshot. This is from the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, a 2025 article. States, risk of mortality from obesity increases with increased BMI. So whether you like the measurement or not, the research shows the more that you are more likely to die earlier, the higher your BMI. Once you hit BMI 30, which is the beginning of obesity, once you hit a BMI of 30, your risk of death keeps going up exponentially. Every 5 points, it gets worse. Severe obesity is greater or equal to BMI 40. Like when you are at a BMI of 40 and above, you are at a 300% higher risk of mortality than if you were at a normal BMI, which is below 25. With someone with a BMI of 30, which is the beginning of obesity, they have a 45% higher risk of premature death and all these related health complications. When you hit 35, it jumps to a 94% risk. When you jump from 35 to 40, it goes to a 300% risk. So it goes up and it goes up exponentially. So this is really important. Whether you like BMI or not, the research is showing us that the higher your BMI is, the greater your risk of mortality. That's a huge deal. See, I want to change my little, how do I change I want to change my name. I get my name to be different. I actually did need to know that. I needed to know how to get it to do that. Okay, bubble. There we go. And then let's make it today. Yeah, I like the purple. All right. So let me help make those numbers mean something to you. Let's humanize this. Someone with a BMI of 40 means they could be 5'5" in height, 5 feet 5 inches, with a weight of 240 pounds. That would give you a BMI of 40. It's a weight to height ratio. That's class 3 obesity, also known as severe or morbid obesity. You have a 300% higher risk of death due to weight related complications, such as negative effects on blood pressure, hypertension, cholesterol, insulin sensitivity, which helps you develop diabetes. We talked about that in my 4 tips, 4 things every woman needs to know episode. So go back and watch that. It affects your mobility, sleep quality, like sleep apnea, which like you can develop sleep apnea, which can be fatal. Just like the other things I mentioned can become fatal. Okay, let's go back to the example. That same person, 5'5", a 5'5" person, that same person with a BMI of 25 at the upper limit of normal, where things start, where risks start to increase. That same person with a BMI of 25 would weigh 150 pounds at that same height. Okay. So if you're 5'5" and weigh 240, you're in the severe obesity range. Okay. 300% higher risk of mortality. Same person, drop that 90 pounds, you would be 150 pounds, and look at how much less your risk is. You drop from 300% all the way down to just 7% higher risk. Um, and I shouldn't say just 7%, right? We'd rather you be in the normal range, rather you be normal weight. But I just want to highlight how big of a gap that is. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a man or a woman when we're talking about BMI, actually. The gender actually doesn't matter within that example. However, a man and woman would carry the weight differently. Women would generally carry the weight more in the hips, thighs, lower body, and a man with that same height and weight would generally carry more fat in the stomach. Let's do some more quick examples so you can get the picture and see how to read this chart and make it human. If you are 5'3", 5'3", weighing 181 pounds, that puts your BMI at 32. That's class 1 obesity. It's on the low end. That gives you a 45% higher risk of mortality and other health complications. Let's talk about me. I'm 5'4". I weigh 138 to 142 when I'm really lifting. Okay. That's not in the season I'm in right now, but when I'm really lifting, I'm about 138 to 142. Right now, I'm at about 127 pounds. My BMI would be that BMI comes out to be 21.7. I'm in normal range, meaning my weight is proportionate to my height. I have been in BMI ranges where I would be classified as overweight when I have been lifting very heavily. Okay. But that's, to be honest, y'all, that is not most people who are being classified. So let me get this little puffy thing. Make sure y'all can hear me. Make sure I make this point. Okay. Make sure the audio right. Okay. So okay. So I am acknowledging that yes, fit people can be in that overweight range, even when you are working out 5, 6, 7 days a week and you are lifting heavy and your weight goes up because you really are putting on a lot of muscle. Okay. But y'all, that is not most people. Most people in the overweight or obese range are not lifting 5, 6, 7 days a week, putting on an extra 15 pounds of muscle. Okay. Now, if that's you, okay. If that really is you, okay. Congratulations. That's awesome. Okay, great. But let's not detract, okay, from the real point that that's not most women, most Black women specifically. That's what we're going to specifically focus on in this episode. That is not most women. That is not most women who are classifying as overweight or obese. All right. I use myself as an example. Let's go taller. For a 6'0" person weighing 266 pounds, their BMI is 36, putting them in class 2 obesity, 94.4% higher risk of death and other complications. Of course, you could say, well, what if that person is lifting and putting on a bunch of muscle and all kinds of stuff? Okay. Right. That is a big variable that says, does that mean you're going to die earlier? No, right? But that is a variable that a lot of people cannot claim for themselves. Right. Now, ask your doctor about your BMI. Okay. You can also go to Google or calculate this in Chat GPT. Okay. If you want to do that, but ask your doctor about your BMI. Um, we will talk about BRI. I'll tell you what that is in a more accurate, what seems to be a more accurate measure than BMI. We'll talk about that after we talk about this. First, we're going to talk about who is most obese. And the reason why I'm going to plug this research in here is because this research is based off of BMI. Again, because that is the widest, that's the most widely used tool to measure obesity. It's simple, it's inexpensive. And so this research is based on BMI. All right. This is from the CDC. Obese adults during August 2021 through August 2023. And y'all, side note about research, if it's 2025, we are not getting 2025 numbers, okay? They have to aggregate the data. They have to make sense out of it. They got to do all of this stuff. There's a whole process. So we're in 2025 looking at research. It's always going to be before that, okay? It's always going to be before this year when we're talking about getting things from like these leading health organizations or these official surveys, these official surveys and data, okay? So this is from the CDC. Obese adults during August 21 through August 2023 was 40.3% total for adults in America. Out of all adults, 4 in 10 adults were obese. 39.2% men, 41.3% women. That is not a statistically significant difference between men and women. A statistically significant difference, y'all, in basic terms, means the difference is not random. It's not by chance. If you compare the men and the women, and they were statistically significant, there was a significant difference between the two groups, it would mean that the difference was not by chance. It was not random. It would mean there is something going on between the two groups that's creating the difference. There is something going on with this group, the men, and this group, the women, that's creating the difference. But these numbers, 39.2% men and 41.3% women, that is not a statistically significant difference. It is a difference, not a statistically significant difference. Let me give you an example. If you flip a coin 100 times and 46 times it's heads and 54 times it's tails, there would not be a statistically significant difference between the head group and the tail group. Okay. But if you flip a coin 100 times and 94 times its heads and 6 times its tails, that would indicate a statistically significant difference. Something is going on that's creating the difference. Like, okay, like it's a weighted coin that's making the heads come out way more than the tails. Here, the difference between men and women's obesity rates is not significantly different. There's a gap, but it's not worth looking into the gap because the gap isn't big enough. Severely obese adults during the same period was 9.4%, 6.7% for men, and 12.1% for women. This is a significant difference, a statistically significant difference, meaning it likely did not happen by chance. There are gender differences here when it comes to these severely obese adults. Well, y'all, I'm not just making up whether something is statistically significant or not statistically significant. When you're reading these research articles, through their evaluation of the data, they are able to tell through their modeling, right? Through the modeling of the data, they are able to tell if something is statistically significant or not. Right. So this is not my perception. I'm not like, oh, that's a small number, that's a big number. Like it's in the articles. And again, it's all linked in the descriptions below. This information I'm going to read to you is from Trust for America's Health. Trust for America's Health is a nonprofit, and I'm going to read this to you because you might not have heard of it. Like CDC, you've heard of, most likely, right? But this is called Trust for America's Health. This is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, Washington, D.C. based health policy group focused on disease prevention and public health policy. This article is from October 16th of this year, 2025, which references 2024 data from the CDC's Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System and the 2017 through 2020 and 2021 through 2023 National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. See why I'm doing this part of the episode on my own? Like if I was on this on Instagram, it would not go well. So hopefully this is helping the nerds, but we'll get to the Instagram live after we get through this research. Here are the numbers from this obesity report. Black and Latino adults have highest rates of obesity. Black adults at 49.9% and Latino adults at 45.6%. White adults were at 41.4% and Asians at 16.1%. Asians just blow everybody out the water, okay? You do not find a big Asian. Asians are slender and tight and keeping it right, okay? Black women, okay, not the same thing. Black women are the highest group, 57.9%, an 18-point difference compared with white women who were at 39.6%. This is a statistically significant difference. Black men had an obesity rate of 40.4%, while white men were at 43.1%. Black men have a lower rate than white men, although not a statistically significant difference. Fun fact, y'all, there's evidence that suggests Asians should have lower BMI cutoffs for overweight and obesity than other races. They're saying, hey, the Asians, they're like, wait a second, the Asians are so different here. We might need a different chart for the Asians. They shouldn't have to be as large to be categorized as overweight and obese because they have higher health risks at lower BMI levels. Okay, so yes, they're smaller, all right? You don't see big Asians, but they are more likely to develop weight-related health issues at those lower weights, y'all. So this is an interesting example of how context matters. And let's ride that wave for a second with context, okay? Obesity levels are typically lower when people are more educated and have higher incomes, which speaks to the issue with access to healthy foods, access to safe places for physical activity, and access to education about what foods to eat. There are systemic and structural barriers to healthy habits. It's not purely personal choice. Remember when we talked about rhetorical concessions, okay? If you're like me, you are really inclined to the personal accountability aspect. But it's important to recognize that there are other factors that can prevent someone from doing the thing that would be best for them. If you cannot acknowledge these things, if we ignore these things or dismiss these things, we run the risk of being out of touch to the point of denying another aspect of reality or too harsh to listen to because you dismiss or we dismiss other people's experiences. Okay, we don't want to do that. We can have our values and convictions, and I think I foresee me always being inclined to the personal accountability aspect. And at the same time, it's important that we're able to acknowledge other arguments and other realities. Yeah, other aspects of reality, okay, that are also playing a role in people's outcomes. Okay, I think it's important to have checks and balances on both sides. All that said, I maintain a lot of people would lose a lot of weight if they took more responsibility for their choices. So I'm saying, even with all that being said about systemic and structural barriers, all that being said, and I know that that's real, okay, and it does prevent people from having access to what they need to be as healthy as me. All right, I acknowledge that, and I maintain that more people would lose more weight if they took more responsibility for their choices. So I got one more piece of research to go over with you. Then we'll talk about BRI, the more accurate measure to BMI. And then we'll pull in Instagram Live and get into the social and cultural issue, which is how weight is affecting relationships, particularly for Black women. All right, this is from Gallup. This article was published on October 28th, 2025. Gallup is a global analytics and advisory company. You might have probably heard of them, right? Gallup is a global analytics and advisory company that uses data to help make leaders and organizations make strategic decisions. Okay, they're known for their public opinion polls. That's probably where you've heard the name, especially around like election politics and stuff. Here's what we got. The United States peaked in adult obesity in 2022 with a record high of 39.9%, or about 4 in 10 Americans, okay, were obese. 2022, that was our peak so far. The adult obesity rate has declined, and that's with everybody involved, all races, all ethnicities. The adult obesity rate has declined to 37% in 2025. That's 7.6 million fewer obese adults. What happened? There was a huge impact with, can you guess? Can you guess? Can you guess? Weight loss injectables rose sharply, have risen sharply since 2024. Okay. The percentage of obese adults didn't drop because people became healthier. It dropped because they were offered, in large part, because they were offered a drug to make them lose weight. Weight loss injectables are type 2 anti-diabetic GLP-1 drugs, such as semaglutide. Ozempic is one of the brand names of a semaglutide. Okay. I mean, sometimes people are saying Ozempic, and really there are other drugs that are parallel to Ozempic, similar to like Vaseline. Y'all, I like Vaseline. Okay, I put Vaseline on my lips. Vaseline is a brand. Petroleum jelly is the actual thing inside of this container. It's not Vaseline is not inside of it. Vaseline is the brand. Okay, Band-Aid is not the like adhesive, the thing that adheres to your skin. It's a brand. Okay, Ozempic is not the thing itself. It's a brand. The thing inside of it is a semaglutide. Okay, a type 2 anti-diabetic GLP-1 drug. So I'm going to read all that again and I'm going to use the brand name. Okay, a huge impact of why we have 7.6 million fewer obese adults in 2025 than we did in 24 is because people were offered Ozempic. People didn't get 7.6 million people didn't necessarily get healthier. They got a drug to make them lose weight. Also, you're hearing anti-diabetic. It's an anti-diabetic drug because obesity raises the risk of diabetes. She's semaglutide because that's the thing that's the drug itself, and then Ozempic is a brand name that's put on top of that. So there are 12.4% of adults taking this drug for weight loss compared to 5.8% in February 2024. So it rose all through 2024. And I imagine the stats next year will show that this year in 2025, it was rising even more steadily, or maybe even exponentially, I can say. Another fun fact, 13 states fully cover this drug under Medicaid. Insurance companies, y'all, though, are pulling back their coverage for these medications. So people relying on these drugs may be out of luck as early as next year. They'll either have to pay much more or find a different way to lose weight. About 62% of adults say that using weight loss drugs is not a good option for people with obesity. I'm one of those people. I prefer people lose weight the old-fashioned way, if I was going to say it simply. And some people who are relying on this drug might have to actually learn how to do that. Okay. Let's talk briefly about BRI. As mentioned in the beginning, I want to show you a newer measure for fat. Okay, since BMI does have limitations. The BRI is a tool among other efforts to bring more inclusive and precise diagnostic tools to the health and fitness space. BMI stands for body mass index. How much mass are you carrying relative to your height? BRI stands for body roundness index. What's your circumference? And I'm not playing, that's really what it stands for. Okay, I have an article from Harvard Health for you, linked in the description. Body roundness index. I think BMI honestly sounds better, but people complained so much. So they were like, okay, well, let's just measure how round you are. Body roundness index is more accurate than BMI. Why is that more accurate? BMI is a height to weight ratio, looking at if your weight makes sense for how tall you are. BMI does not account for fat distribution, which does matter. Okay, where your fat is makes a difference. There are different health implications at different locations of fat. Visceral fat is the most dangerous because it impacts your vital organs. It's the fat you can't see. It's in your belly, and it's fat that you can't actually pinch. Okay. It's not fat that you can pinch off your body. It's on the inside of you. Visceral fat specifically is around your vital organs, around your abdomen space. So BRI focuses on height, waist size, and some measures also focus on hip size. I've seen some measures exclude hip size. BRI takes weight out of the equation. The focus on visceral fat is a major key here. Again, visceral fat is how much fat surrounds the organs inside the abdomen. It's fat in your belly. The focus on visceral fat makes this a more important measurement because high amounts of belly fat in particular are linked to high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Visceral fat is active fat, releasing hormones and inflammatory chemicals that disrupt your body's normal function. So, visceral fat is telling you more about the state of your health than the fat on your arms or your hips. Okay. So, it's more important to measure the fat that's in your belly than fat that's on anywhere else in your body because of the implications. So, they're like, okay, well, if we measure how big you are around, that big you are in your belly, that's going to give us a good idea of how much fat is in there. Okay. And that is more, and regardless of how much you weigh, if you're big, really big in that area, we are we can pretty much count on you developing some really significant health complications. A high amount of visceral fat doesn't just change how your body looks, it changes how your body works. Here are some impacts. There's higher risk of heart disease. Black people have the highest rates of heart disease because we have the highest rates of obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Impacts chronic inflammation. Inflammation is basically your body puffing up to protect itself against danger. This inflammation interferes with your hormones, energy regulation, and mood stability. Another one, or more on your, here's more on your, on the mental and emotional effect of this visceral fat. Uh, it can create, you can develop brain fog, anxiety, depression, and fatigue. Higher amounts of visceral fat is related to raised blood pressure and blood vessel damage, which is another impact of inflammation. Impacts risk of diabetes. Black adults are already more likely to develop diabetes complications, kidney disease, amputations, vision loss, and to have Black people have worse outcomes overall. Okay, when it comes to what happens when someone contracts diabetes. And I didn't say this in the last episode in the four things every woman must know when I talked about diabetes, but that percentage somewhere between like 12.6 and about 13.1% of Black adults who are diagnosed with diabetes. But y'all, there's always people who go undiagnosed but are living with the disease. So think about all the people, we're talking about Black people in particular right now, all the Black people who don't go to the doctor, okay, who don't get a diagnosis, but are still experiencing issues related to diabetes, issues related to um, obesity, issues related to high amounts of visceral fat, but they're not even diagnosed with these things like hypertension, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, uh, diabetes. Some are not even diagnosed with these things because they're not even going to someone to get an official diagnosis, and so they're not reported in the numbers. Okay, so keep that in mind, y'all. Last one here, not necessarily the last impact, but last one that I'm going to say, last impacts that I'm reporting here on what visceral fat impacts. It impacts your organs. There can be organ damage, particularly in the liver. You can develop fatty liver disease. So reducing visceral fat is hugely important. You can help yourself through consistent nutrition, exercise, and stress management, which will have huge positive ripple effects on your energy, focus, and long-term health. Hopefully, this helps you understand more about how your body works and the importance of getting rid of excess fat. This is so much more important than how you look, although you will also look better. Okay. And that's important for relationships. Let's shift gears and talk about how this is all specifically related to Black women's issues with dating and marriage. Again, why are we focusing on Black women? Because Black women have the highest rates of overweight and obesity among all races and ethnicities. Okay. Black women are also the most single of all groups. Regardless of why you're so big, It's impacting your opportunities for relationships. We're going to talk about it, right? So I'm going to bring Instagram Live on for this next part. We are going to talk about the social cultural impact of women who are overweight, how it's impacting relationships. I just did part one by myself. Okay, I did part one by myself because it was a lot of research and a lot of numbers. And I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to put y'all through that. So I'm going to bring you in for the social commentary aspect of it. Y'all, hi, good morning. Happy Saturday. Y'all, we are going to talk about the impact of women, Black women in particular, being overweight, obese, and how that's impacting relationships. Are y'all ready to go? Let me know how you're doing. I'll give it just another couple of seconds for people to pop in. Let me know that you can hear me. Let me know that you can see me. Happy Saturday. Hi. So this is part two, the social impact of overweight Black women. All right. Basically, it boils down to this: men who care about themselves want women who care about themselves. Caring for your body is one of the most apparent ways to care for yourself, and men see this at first sight. High quality men are very aware that his partner or spouse is a reflection of himself. All right. His partner or spouse is also an investment. He wants to invest in someone who is not tanking. Here, we don't act like it doesn't matter. Okay, we don't act like it doesn't matter. Men don't, you don't get to act like it doesn't matter how women are experiencing you and perceiving you. Okay. Women, y'all don't get to act like it doesn't matter how men are perceiving you and experiencing you. It all matters here. And if that's not something that you want to kind of get behind, I'm just not the one for you. I'm just simply not. Let's get into this, y'all. If you start normal weight and become big, some men are willing to leave you, especially if it's early enough. I'm not saying it's morally right to ignore you because you're big or leave you because you're big. I'm not saying it's morally right. I'm also not saying it's right to be undisciplined or become way bigger than the woman he married. I mentioned earlier, y'all, in part one, I had a consultation recently with a man. He might be here this morning. I don't know. I had a consultation with a man recently who has divorce in mind because his wife is blown up and does not want to and is not does not want to get back on the wagon. All right. Too many Black women have more fat on their bodies than they should. What about pregnancy? What if I'm gaining weight because I'm having a baby? All right. Now I'm about to reference BMI here because that's what this research used. About 25 to 35 pounds of weight is gained during pregnancy with a normal weight, when you're a normal weight. If you are overweight at the beginning of pregnancy, it doesn't mean you get to gain more weight. The recommendation is actually that you gain less weight. Okay, meaning you should be even more careful about your weight if you're already big, not just letting yourself get bigger and bigger because you're pregnant. Why am I saying that? Because I'm saying that there are women who will get in relationships with men and you just let yourself go and you get bigger and bigger. All right, let's exit pregnancy for a second. Let's focus on dating and relationships. Black women are the most single and we have the biggest women, most overweight, most obese. Again, whether you want to use BMI or not, we can look with our two eyes. Y'all already got to stop playing with us on that. You think Black men want to be saying that the Black women are the biggest of everybody? You think I want to say that? No. You think where people are making it up? No, we can see it with our own eyes. It's like, well, Black women really aren't that big. No, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You are. We can see it all around. Now, when I was in Atlanta, of course, you get the best looking of all Black people in Atlanta, best looking men, best looking women. There are a lot of good looking people, a lot of good looking Black people in Atlanta. Now, it's also a hugely Black population, not representative of the normal America. Okay, Atlanta is not Georgia, and Atlanta is not America. Atlanta is very different. Okay, and I think every Black person should live in Atlanta at some point because it's a good time. It was a little different, you know. I lived there. I started living there when I was 21. Okay, it's different than it was before, but still, it's an interesting experience, fun experience. But people always come from Atlanta. People always want to come in my comments talking about, well, in Atlanta, we see people working out. We got a ton of gyms a ton of Black gyms in Atlanta. So yeah, you are going to find some fit Black people in Atlanta, absolutely. I'm not even gonna pretend like that's not true. It's true. That is not representative of America. Okay, we see it in the numbers. Anyway, Black, and with all that fitness, still the most single. So, but today we're focusing on body. Today we're focusing on body and how that's impacting your opportunity at relationships. We have the most single women. We have the biggest women. I think they intersect. I think these intersect. All right. Ladies, you will not fix the single problem as a whole until you fix the body, attitude, and mindset problem. Today, we're just focusing on the body. But until you fix the body, attitude, and mindset problem, you're not going to fix the single problem. Okay. When you have all three of those things, body, attitude, and mindset, you're damn near a unicorn. And the men know it. The men know it. That's not that the men know that. I know that. I know that. They know that. Okay, you get body, attitude, and mindset. You damn near a unicorn at this point. Yeah, bam, body, attitude, and mindset. Bam, results. Exactly. Exactly. It's not complex, but a lot of women are making this very hard. I don't like that for you, ladies. A lot of you making this, a lot of you making this too hard. All right. But you get body, attitude, and mindset together, you're damn near a unicorn. How do I know we're the most single? Real quick, y'all, here are the marriage numbers. Among all US adults, 49% of women are currently married compared to 53% of men. Just 2023. Y'all, whenever we're talking about stats, you're never going to get the same year stats, okay? 27% of Black women are married, 49% never married, 34% of Black men married, 50% never married, 31% of Black people married, 50% never married, 13% of Black women divorced, 10% of Black men divorced, 12% of Black people divorced. Let's see. What does a good man have to do to secure himself a good woman? I'm going to screenshot that because that's the question. I love that question because it progresses the conversation. It doesn't just say like, hey, there's no good women out here. It progresses the conversation. I always love a good, thoughtful question that progresses the conversation and brings about solution-oriented conversations. Compare these numbers to all the United States. 48% of all adults in the United States are married. 34% of all adults in the United States were never married at the time of the survey, y'all. It's 10% of all adults in the United States are divorced. I'm reading all that for the record, okay? I'm reading all that for the record. I want you to focus on this one stat today. 27% of Black women are married. 49% never married. Okay? Just focus on that stat. You compare that to all in the United States, like 48% of all married or of all people in the United States are married and Black women are 27%. That's a huge difference. And we're going to focus on body and the way that impacts this number today, although we could talk about other things. Most men want a woman they are attracted to, who could carry and care for their children if they choose to have children. They want quality of life and know that being with a woman who is not physically fit will greatly impact that. Your health is wealth. So being unhealthy, too fat, too big, okay, effectively makes you broke in that regard. I'm making the simple argument that if Black women were more physically fit, their chances at marriage would increase. It wouldn't solve the whole problem. Again, the attitude and mindset need to match up. Okay. And men gotta go past body and understand how to read mind. And I don't mean be a mind reader. I mean be able to decipher what kind of mindset she's operating out of. Instead of just complaining and reacting, decipher, understand how to articulate what the issues are. But you can't give it if you don't have it. Anyway, I can't, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes today. Let's focus. I'm making the simple argument that if Black women were more physically fit, their chances at marriage would increase. It wouldn't solve the whole problem. The attitude and mindset need to match up, but it would at least get you in the door. Yes? Stop me when I'm lying. Too many Black women, 8 out of 10, are at least over a normal weight or are at least overweight and can even get into obesity. If you want to account for some of you with a whole bunch of muscle, okay, let's take that down to 6 or 7 out of 10. I will give that to you for the sake of the argument. I got no issue saying, okay, we got some athletes. So let's say that some of that is making you categorize as overweight when you're really not. And I put this example of myself in part one. When I was lifting really heavily, talking about 5, 6, 7 days a week of big lifting, okay, I have had times where I was categorized as overweight because of my BMI, because I mean, we're talking about a lot of muscle, okay, being put on. And so if you were just looking at my height to weight ratio, the BMI, body mass index, if you were just looking at that, I was categorized as overweight. When you could look at me and see that's not the case, and I know that that's not the case, but I would be categorized as BMI if you just look at that snapshot. I do maintain that's not most women that are being categorized as overweight or obese. Let's take two, let's take that 8 out of 10 because of all the athletes and all of the fitness people. Let's take that down to 6 out of 10. It's still too much. That means that more than half of you, let's say 60 to 70% of you are actually just too fat, are actually just like truly, genuinely overweight and obese because of fat on your body. Are y'all following me? More than half, 60 to 70% of you would still be too big to fit, generally fit what a man, especially a high quality man, are we talking about someone with good character? We're talking about someone who, yes, is financially able to support you and the family. Yeah, I mean, men who want to get away from providership in a traditional sense, you're not the man for this group. Okay, you're not the man for this group. That's okay. Everybody gets it. I think everybody should do exactly what you think you should do in your life. But if talking about men providing financially is something that just is like, oh my God, why should men have to do that? You're not the men for this group. Okay. Just like women who don't want to care about their body, you're not the woman for this group. Okay. Other groups, fine. Fine. So far more than if more than half of you are too big to fit generally, like that this kind of man's wants and needs. Next, we're going to talk about why is this so hard for women to grasp, like the weight issue. Why is it so hard for women to grasp, accept, and change? I just have very few notes left, y'all. We're just going from here down to here. That's it. It's pretty short. I've gone from all the way up here today. So part one was really long, but you'll see that on YouTube. Okay. We're going to send this to people who need it, right? We're going to send this to somebody who needs it. By the way, before we move on to this next part, my next episode is going to be on it's going to be called, I think it's going to be called Pretty and Stuck. Okay. When beauty isn't enough. And it's about why some even like really attractive women are not getting the kind of results they want. So it all links together. Okay. Body, attitude, mindset, all links together. Why is this so hard, this weight issue thing? So why is it so hard for women to grasp, accept, and change? Number one, men largely don't tell women the truth. Let's start with the men. Let's start with the men. Men largely don't tell women the truth. Okay. Why is that? I got 3 reasons why. Number one, they will be socially slaughtered for saying the truth out loud, or privately, they'll be attacked and not heard. Number two, they don't want to hurt their feelings. And I'm not saying, and this is not every man is not worried about hurting your feelings, but there are a lot of you. There are enough of you. Okay, men get reactive when we call out men's issues the same way women get reactive. They talk about what issues going on with women. Men get, oh no, it's not all, no, no, no. It's like if you can acknowledge that there's a segment of you doing this stuff, it's like, I mean, I like to work with reasonable people. I can't control who consumes my content, but I like people. I like working with people who are reasonable. So men largely don't tell women the truth. Why? Number one, they'll be socially slaughtered for saying the truth out loud, or privately they'll be attacked and not heard. Number two, some men don't want to hurt your feelings. Or it's like, no matter how I say it, it's going to be a problem. Number three, they've tried. Some men have tried but women won't listen, confusing the truth with being mean. Some of that is can be a real misunderstanding. Some of that is a simple deflection because the truth is just confronting a reality they hoped wasn't true that they've been trying to avoid. Why is it, number two reason why this is so hard for women to grasp, accept, and change? Growing up in environments where lies, half truths, which I consider lies, lies by omission are still lies. Growing up in environments where lies or half truths, which are lies, delusion and denial are nurtured. How could that be? Might be raised by women who are biased and not objective, or women who overtake their households. So the man or the father's voice is weakened, he becomes passive. And someone earlier said, well, coming from a small town. The men and women are overweight, and they have and they're having kids early. Okay, yeah. When the men aren't holding that standard for themselves and they've dropped their standard, and then like we said earlier, your partner, your spouse is a reflection of you. So if he's low, he's down, and then he's willing to accept that reflection of himself in the woman. So now they both big. So sometimes the environment doesn't hold the bar high, and so the I mean, I don't know how I don't almost it's so almost so I also don't know how else to say this. It's like the bar just isn't high enough, and so you're getting low quality people because the demand on them is just not high enough for them to improve, for them to raise the quality of their personal life or their relational life. And so people will be like, well, from where I'm from, I mean, the big men and the big women, they get together and they seem happy. Their standard is a lot lower than mine. Their standard is a lot lower than men that I work with. Their standard is a lot lower than women I work with. Their standard is just so you got different people with different kinds of standards for themselves and their relationships. And so it's not that people can't get into relationships, but what I've said is that what kind of relationship are you getting into? Because I don't know about you, but I can't just do anything. I can't just do anything. So some people is well they're married. Well, what kind of marriage is it? What kind of quality of marriage is it? Both y'all got sleep apnea mask on, or you got to sleep next to somebody with a machine hooked up to them and they can't. You don't know if you don't know if they're gonna make it to the next day. And I'm not playing. That's what y'all going for. Okay, that's fine. That's not what I could not be. When I say could never be me, when I say could never, and if that's what you want to do, you should do that. But don't come over here trying to get us, people like us, to lower our standards, man or woman. Don't try to get us to accept what works for you doesn't work for us. Okay. Just stay out of our business then. You know what I mean? Stay out of our business then. If you like it, like it. If you love it, love it. Love it. But sometimes people say, well they could do it, but how are they do like what's the quality of the relationship that they're in? What's the quality of the marriage? Are you really content, satisfied, happy? Everybody big, you all can't take a walk around the lake. You can't take a walk around the lake without somebody having to sit down on the bench. You acting like you're sitting down to take in the scenery. You sitting down because you can't take another 10 steps. Don't play. When you talking about stop. Stop playing. So why is it so hard for women to grasp, accept, and change this kind of behavior? I said growing up in environments where lies, half truths, which are lies, okay, lies by omission are still lies. Growing up in environments where lies, delusion, and denial are nurtured. You can go without the truth for so long that you reject it when it comes. You go without the truth for so long, you reject it when it comes. Number three, why is it so hard? Bad habits have gone on for so long. They have been embedded so deeply that it's too hard. Or you think, let me be really clear that you think it's too hard for you to change. The diligence and discipline it takes is something that they've been unwilling to take on, or unwilling to take on for long enough to see the results. I got three more things to tell you about solutions, what you can do. Very, very easy. It'll take 5 minutes. Basically, it boils down to this, what I said at the beginning of this part two. Ladies, regardless of how you grew up, regardless of who did or didn't try to tell you the truth, okay, regardless of all of that, regardless of how long you've been going on with these bad habits, okay, regardless of all of that, you must accept that this is a part of the reality of the kind of relationship you likely want, okay? If you're that you likely want, with the type of man that you likely want, most women would want to be with, okay? A responsible man, a disciplined man, a man who cares about the way he's showing up in the world, a man who likes to be responsible for his investments and caring for them, and the stewardship of his home and in his relationship. That kind of man, you need to. I'm not talking about any amount of money, but money does come to these types of men. But I'm not even talking about money, because a lot of us need to be building with somebody, not trying to get somebody at the finish line. That's a huge. Let me do an episode on that. The reality of building with a person, building while black. That's what I need to call it. So we really don't. A lot of black people don't need to be talking nothing about six figures. You need to be talking about what you need to do to be able to get to that. All right. Well, I'm not going to get into that today. Okay. I'm building while black. Women, you're going to have to accept this as a reality of something that you need to do. Okay. Something that you need to do. Just like, I'm going to give you the parallel. I did this in part one, y'all. I said this parallel in part one. Let me say this. Women, just like men are being tasked to be more emotionally connected. Yeah. Men are being tasked to be more emotionally connected. Yes. Men are being tasked to be more attuned to the women emotionally, that in a way that they never have in generations prior. Most women are not willing to accept a man who is not willing to meet this moment that we're in now, where she's seriously like, I can make the money that I need to. I want connection. I want intimacy. And men are having to, not all men, some men are disinterested in this. Men are having to like kind of meet this moment, trying to figure out, okay, how do I got to do the provider thing and I'm trying to do the emotionally intimate thing. Okay. So just like you are unwilling, most women are unwilling to accept a man who's not willing to do that. Women, and men are having to accept this as a reality of this moment's woman. Talking about that kind of woman is demanding things of men that are beyond just keeping y'all alive. Men are having to accept this new reality. Women who refuse this aspect of relationships, body and attitude and mindset, there's a whole other deep conversation as well. But when you refuse these aspects of the reality of what is required in this kind of relationship, you are only playing yourself. That's the simplest way to put it. You're just playing yourself, because the market demands what it demands. Ladies and gentlemen, we must get on the same page here. Solutions for women who are willing. Number one, accept that your weight is part of not just your satisfaction, but your partner's. Accept that your weight is a part of your satisfaction and your partner's. Treat taking care of your body as non-negotiable. Now, there are people who don't treat it that way. It's a cherry on top. That's a different type of person. Okay. And you got to figure out where you're lane, because you might hear all this kind of information and think, you know what? I don't want to live like that. And that's good. You need to know what you want just as much as you know what you don't want. You need to know what you're willing to do as much as you know what you are not willing to do. Everyone is not willing to treat their body. Every woman, every man, every woman is not willing to treat their body like a non-negotiable. And you need to know your limits and stop messing with people trying to adjust their standards, adjust their expectations and standards. Okay, you need to know what you are willing to do and what you are not willing to do. What I am offering here, what I'm suggesting is you, women, you need to treat your body like a non-negotiable. Taking care of your body as a non-negotiable, not a preference, non-negotiable. Number two, start small. If you're not doing anything right now, you can start with committing to a 45-minute power walk. Power walk, that means not just that normal walk, power walk, put a little oomph in it, okay? Power walk, little power walk daily. Do that for 3 weeks. 45-minute power walk daily. Do that for 3 weeks, okay? Do that for 3 weeks. Then add some body weight exercises. Right? You can YouTube simple daily body weight exercises and do a 10-minute video for free, 3 to 4 times a week. Get a journal, keep track of how it's leaving you feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. Read the journal over weekly, every week for 3 weeks, so you can see for yourself what exercise is doing for you. Okay, people act like they don't have a plan. I'm going to give you a plan, right? I'm giving you a plan right now. What you can do if you have not been treating this as a non-negotiable. This is how you can get started. Number three, this is the last one, y'all, and then we're out of here. Invest in help. If you seriously have a weight problem, please don't just leave it up to YouTube, okay? Just like if you have a relationship problem, don't leave it up to YouTube. Get a membership to a fitness studio or a gym in the area. If you go the studio route, make sure you look at the schedule ahead of time, pick 3 to 4 days a week that you can be there. Go the same time each time and build a routine. If you go the gym route, get a trainer there that you can meet with consistently. It's okay to need help. I have been a fitness helper, okay? A fitness trainer, a health coach, a fitness nutrition specialist. I love when people go get help. I'm a therapist now. I'm a coach now. Get help that you need. Okay? It's okay to need help. It's not okay to need help and avoid the people who can help you. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Okay. It's acceptable wherever you're at. Okay. Meet you where you're at. It's not acceptable to know you have a problem and do nothing about it. And then keep talking about racism. Okay. At some point, you are your own enemy. You sleeping with the enemy. And I know you're sleeping by yourself with that kind of attitude. Okay. Hello. Don't let's wrap up, y'all. Let's wrap up. Y'all, that's the episode. Next episode is Pretty and Stuck, the lies pretty women believe and where it leaves them. If you like this video, y'all, press the like button on YouTube. You also go on YouTube when this comes up and subscribe. I love to read your comments. So leave them and let me know how this is landing for you. And I love the feedback, okay? Give me feedback. Let me know what you want to hear because it really helps me to figure out what kind of content it would best serve you. I have an ebook that I'm going to be working on. We voted on that in my story just the other day. It's called Prepared. It's going to be for single people. Okay. It's for men and women, single people who want to intentionally live a single life to prepare for marriage. Okay. So we're working on that. Be on the lookout for it. I'm Taylor Chandler, licensed marriage and family therapist and personal development coach. I hope you change for the better. And if you don't want to change, I wish you the best. Y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye.